Hi, everybody, and welcome to In the Huddle at the Kern High Network. What an absolute pleasure it is to be here. This is an exciting beginning to a great story that we're going to be able to tell all year long. I'm Vance Palm. That's Stan Greene, Trevor Horn. In just a moment, I'm going to give some official introductions here. We're going to get into it. This is the kickoff to something very, very exciting. Our director, Alex, running the show here. We are at the heart of the Kern High School District. Wow. Stan Greene, the Director of School Support Services. I know firsthand, so does Trevor, so does Alex. Anybody in your office knows that when they get a text or a call from Stan Greene saying, hey, I got an idea, Trevor, you know it, I know it, we all know it, I got an idea. Not only do we know that there's some excitement behind it, but there's a vision behind it, and there's also that philosophy that you're not going to be told no, it's going to happen. We look at Achieve Magazine, we look at the Peak Awards, we look at the Kern High Network starting of live streaming when we kicked off that first football game at Frontier High against Arroyo Grande, and I have a picture of you hitting enter, and it went crazy, and it went bonkers, and everybody is attached to it now. So Stan Greene, we know when you say you have an idea, it's for real. This is a great idea. It's called In the Huddle, and I know you brought it up to me, I don't know, a couple years ago we talked about it, and I always had it in the back of my head. All right, something's coming. It's coming. It's here now. Stan, give us the 30,000-foot view and or the elevator pitch on this new idea of yours.
I don't even know where to start. My office knows I don't like the word can't, and when I come up with something, I want to do it. I think for me, it goes back to my high school experience and my collegiate experience. I had such a great experience that I want everybody to feel that. And so everything we do out of this office is geared just towards that every student has that feeling of being cared for, being important. So the 30,000-foot view was, there was a little bit of a void there for a show like this. And, we have the right talent with you guys and Greg Kerr. And I feel like we can do a lot of great things for kids. And so for us, we started today. And, of course, you'll talk more about it later. But eventually we're going to go to 2 days a week. And with the ultimate goal for me, I'll feel like we hit it when we're 3 days a week. When we're Monday, we bring in the coaches for the game. Thursday, we're talking about the game, maybe predictions. And then Friday at lunchtime, we're on a campus, high school game day.
Wow.
So that's kind of the vision of what we ultimately want this to become.
We have the live streaming sports. Everybody's watched that now for 9 years. Hard to believe it's already been going now for 9 years. We have the hard copy of the Achieve Magazine, but now we have a weekly live stream show that everybody can tap into. You're going to be called on quite a bit today, boss, so sit tight there. Trevor Horn, wow.
This is the longest I've been quiet my entire life.
And that's not going to last long. We know that. That's why I had to start with Stan. 2014, I had the luxury of introducing you on air at a great show we did downtown, and you were up calling the Kern Valley football game up in the middle of nowhere, and we went to you, and there was the voice that we heard for the first time in Kern County, the effervescence, the joyfulness, the love of sport. Trevor Horn, 10 years at the California, and then also you spent
5 years
at the California,
yeah,
and the
10
last
years.
5 years at Garces Memorial High School as a sports information director. You and I are going to carry a lot of the heavy lifting today, and Stan's going to be kind of here to keep us in the right direction. But before we take our first break and come back in the first quarter, because we have a lot to get to today, welcome to the fold. And by the way, welcome to the field. Last night you were back on the field. You took one for the team, but good to have you here. Give us a brushstroke of your involvement here and what you're going to do for the Kern High Network.
Well, Stan and I talked a couple of weeks ago, and he gave me the call and said, hey, this is the idea that I have. And, I've had some availability over the last 4 months, been able to spend it with my wife and my son. But this is where I need to be. Working within high school athletics here in Kern County over the last 10 years has brought so much joy to me. And there is no other place I would rather be, because this is really athletics at the high school level is the purest form there is out there right now. And so what we're able to do for the student athletes within the Kern High School District and our 19 comprehensive high schools that have CIF affiliated programs is it's exhilarating to me to know that I could be out there just like I was out at Highland last night as I hosted Liberty in the first football scrimmage of the year. We'll get into that later in the show, but exhilarating to be back out there. It felt right. It really did.
Before we take our first break, we're going to come back in the first quarter in just a second. I know you've got him doing a lot of things. How about letting our audience know exactly where you've got Trevor Horn dialed into, what you got him tapped into?
Well, right now we're using his brain. No one's ever said that. Right? No, I mean, Trevor's done an amazing job since he came to Bakersfield. What, 14 years ago-ish?
10. 2014,
See,
10 years
like
ago. Yeah, it's actually Zach Ewing's birthday. I remember that because it was July 29th, 2014. My first day, I was out there. First thing I ever did is I went out to Centennial, met up with Kevin Snee, met up with Andrew Hansen, met up with Malcolm Johnson, talked to those guys. That was the first thing I did that morning on a Monday, and we started I do everything in my life, just 100 miles an hour, hit the ground running.
Was that the year that Ridgeview was in the state playoff game, or was that the next year?
It was that year.
That year, okay.
Okay,
we'll tell that. We'll cover that later.
You know what?
Season. No, you know what I got him doing, honestly, though, is I told you the story yesterday, I think, about the guy in, was it Talladega Nights that says, you can't push that car. And he says, yeah, I can. My engine's in it.
You're right.
That's how I feel. I feel like I've got some great people around me that work with me, not for me. And, we all kind of identified that one thing that we're missing in this town is more sports coverage and more sports content. And when Trevor became available, it became pretty easy to pick up Trevor just from that viewpoint. Someone that when you call him in the room, when we're in this room and I'm not in it or he's not in it, I have the most knowledge about sports. When he's in it, I don't. Because he'll list the best teams in town, the best players in town, but more importantly, the best stories in town. And so we're looking for that kind of stuff from Trevor and that kind of content. And he's done a fantastic job, as you'll see later in the show, with some of the stuff that he's created and some of the graphics he's created. And a lot of work he's done on the football side of it for, like the preseason, what you can expect. And then I think on Monday, we're also going to get some volleyball content of, here's the teams in town, here's what they look like. And so that's what I have from him is that. I mean, and we've been friends since he's been here. He's a great dude.
And last but certainly not least, not with us today, our partner in all of this, the Dean of Local Sports, Greg Kerr. He has somewhat of a busy schedule. That cat's moving around town quite a bit, but we're going to have him in here.
Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, Greg and I came to Bakersfield the same year. 1987.
Oh, I know it well.
That was his first year here and my first year here. And so, Greg and I have kind of that relationship for all those years. And you can't have a show without Greg. And of course, like I've told you a million times, anything I do, you're involved in. And,
Love it.
And I'm appreciative of our friendship. And you just do a great job carrying our message. And that's the most important thing for me is the Kern High School District's message. And this office's message that it's about our kids.
Well, I love the name of the show because if you're on the team, you definitely want to be in the huddle. We're going to take our first break, let these guys make fun of me for that one. When we come back, Trevor and I are going to go pretty deep in the first quarter, the sea change of head coaching here in the CIF Central section. Back right after this.
Valley Strong's youth accounts help kids practice earning,
Trevor,
Sir.
in the huddle, first quarter, first true segment. We had our kickoff with the boss, and now our first segment, our first
Does that
quarter.
mean we're putting him off to the side now?
Never. But let me tell you,
corner,
look at how
buddy.
he looks. He's sitting right there like this, though. So, he does own this baby. All right. So
Yeah, he does.
what we talked about when we got together for our prep meeting was we all thought it would be, incumbent upon us to talk about the sea change that took place with head coaching. Happens every year, happens every offseason. This is nothing new. There's always changes.
Yep.
But this one seems to be somewhat significant. The sea change of head coaching, it doesn't take us too far off script if we start right at the very top with head coach Brian Nixon retiring. I saw Coach Nixon at a social function the year before he had retired. And we all talked to these coaches away from the field, away from the gym, away from the diamond. And so we were friends with all of them. So I didn't think it was a big issue. And I said, how much longer are you going to do this? And he gave me that look like I'd heard something. And I hadn't heard anything, but I just said, hey, Brian, how much longer are you going to do this? And, typical Coach Nixon goes, whenever it feels right, right. Well, he had already kind of started that path. Let's first talk about a California state champion in Brian Nixon, and Stan, what he's meant to this region, to Liberty High School, and then before that at Centennial High School. You look at just some of the names that he's quarterbacked, and before that at Shafter. He's a Shafter general.
Before that at Fraser Mountain.
Well, that and his playing days at Bakersfield College. This isn't just a retirement that goes unnoticed. This is a big one. Brian Nixon.
Brian Nixon, when you think about it, he had a chance to win a state title 3 years ago, wasn't able to do it, came back the very next year, beat the same exact team in the state championship that he lost to in the SoCal Regionals. And so he put that kind of, took that monkey off his back, winning a state championship when Liberty beat Clovis back in 2015 with Jordan Love and Chris Barnes and that whole squad, Curtis Brown. He was able to take that monkey off the back because Brian will say to this day, don't call me that, but I coined him the Marv Levy of Kern County because he had so many chances at Centennial and even one at Liberty before that of winning a section title, and he wasn't able to get over that hump. And then it just felt like once he got over that hump, he was there. He was at the mountaintop. He was ready to go, and they just kept winning and winning and winning, and he walks away with 3 section titles, with a state championship. And we talk about him, and it's hard to look at that and think of high school football in Kern County without Brian Nixon roaming a sideline. It's really going to be a hard thing to see this season.
You build a team around you like you've built here, Stan. It's not just Brian Nixon, but what a staff he built.
I mean, I think of him and I think, what are you going to say about Brian? He's the Mount Rushmore of coaching in this town, in the section, in the state. I mean, he did such a tremendous job everywhere he's been. He's a great guy. Kids love him. Kids play for him. I can't say enough great things about him. And it's a tremendous loss for all of the kids now that are there. But it also opens an opportunity for the next Brian Nixon.
Yep.
The master of segues. The question became, who's going to take over for Brian Nixon? Who comes in? Who's the next guy? Who's going to be that guy? Yeah. Well, it's Richie Bolin.
It is.
And last year, Stan, we had kind of in a unique way, actually called 3 North home games in the span of like 7 weeks, the way it just worked out. And so we were there a lot, and I would go down on the sidelines or pregame and kind of be close to Richie. Loved the intensity. I thought when I heard about the hire, that's a great, great hire. I'll keep you out of this one from the standpoint of the hiring process because you and I are just talking how much we like Richie Bolin. Coach Bolin taking over the Patriots.
To me, it was a no-brainer when you think about candidates and bringing him in, and a guy that, was very successful at his alma mater at North High, and a high energy guy. He was a very good assistant at Stockdale before that, and when he took over that North High program, you could see a lot of pride instilled back into the Stars program, and he kept that going for the 5 years that he was there. And then I talked to him last night at Highland, and the question I asked him, I was like, and it's that original question that he hasn't heard yet since February 1st when he was hired, and that is, what's it like being the guy to take over for the guy? And he's like, yeah, that's an original one. But he and I have, we've had enough conversations over the years that we're both very sarcastic towards each other. But he realizes that there is a lot of pressure there, and he understands. He's not running away from it. He's not running away from those questions. He understands that when you're leaving a guy that has 150 plus career wins as a head coach and a state championship, there is a lot of there's a lot of pressure there to be able to keep the ship afloat. And I think that Richie Bolin is the guy to be able to do that for the Patriots
in the third quarter.
Many years coming.
Well, in the third quarter of this show, we're going to go over all the rundown of the league, the schedule, kind of what we're looking at, and what they did last year. So it'll be interesting to see. And talk about Adam Levinson.
I love Levy. I think he's a great guy. I've known Levy since 2013 when I was in Sacramento covering state champion, covering Del Oro up there, and not obviously our Del Oro, but Del Oro out of Loomis, when the Drillers just manhandled them that year for the state championship under another gentleman that we're going to talk about here in just a second. Levy was, a great assistant with him at BHS, played for Gola at BHS, came over with him over to Garces for the last 5 years, was the offensive coordinator. And so for Levy to be able to get that job, and he really has bought into it, man. He's a Dalian now. I was, my in-laws were in town, and they love going to Naughty Pine. And we went over there after Mass one Sunday about 3 weeks ago, and there he is with his coaching staff. And I looked at Levy, walked right in. We were sitting tables right next to each other, and I go, man, you are an 08er now. And he goes, dude, if you're having lunch on a Sunday at Naughty Pine, you bet you we are. So, Levy really has bought in, and his wife, Tiffany, really buys into it. The boys are around all the time. He's got 3 wonderful boys. His mother, Cecile, comes in, and she is the greatest team mom. It's the whole package with Levy. And, and he's a lot of the guys that were under Bolin at North have stayed on with Levy, and it's really allowed him to keep that symbiotic kind of relationship with the boys going. And I think it's going to be great for him.
First disclaimer, Alex, am I in this camera? First disclaimer.
No, here on this one.
I'm on the first disclaimer. It's KNOTTY, the Naughty Pine. Second disclaimer, we have no affiliation yet with them as a sponsor, but I want to make sure that we're very clear. Naughty Pine getting some early love from In the Huddle. Before we go to the next coaching, the seat change, just interject in the middle there. There's a lot that goes on with coaching changes, Stan, either from your desk and you as a player and a coach.
Yeah, not so much for me. That's a school site decision, hiring and firing. But they did a great job. Richie's
But it comes across your eyes.
Yeah, I see him. I'll get calls. Hey, what do you think of this guy? And those 2 guys in particular, great human beings. Richie's got a great, certainly New Mexico State, right?
New Mexico State long snapper.
Yeah, and then Adam was a student of mine at BHS. I was at BHS for 10 years in the middle of my career. I've been in this job 15 years now, so that's how old I am. But he was a great kid there and a great player, and his mom was super involved. And Tiffany's, coach's wife, man.
Oh, man, to a T.
Yeah.
To a T.
And they are bought in.
And
good.
She's learned from the best, too. We'll get into that in just a second.
Yeah.
She really has.
Good for North High. That's good for North High.
Speaking of North High.
Okay, so right in the middle of this first quarter, there's 3 names here, Shilhobble, Gola, and Campbell. You have a somewhat of an inside track on this information, and I think that it's a big story for a lot of reasons. Let's jump right in, and boss, just chime in whenever you feel like it. But Tyler Shilhobble, Paul Gola, and the Grant Campbell connection.
Well, you said the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
Brian Nixon. We put 4 heads up there. Let's put the second head up there, and that's Paul Gola.
A modern day Mount Rushmore.
Modern day.
Got it.
Yeah,
our Mount Rushmore's got about 20 coaches up
but
there.
a modern
maybe
day
more.
Mount Rushmore is
100%.
I'll say this over and over again. When I was a reporter locally, and even when I was at Garces, when college football coaches would come into town to recruit, they had 2 names that they would always call. They'd always contact everybody. They had 2 names because they were mainstays for 20 years. That was Paul Gola and Brian Nixon.
That's a good point.
That they would go to those 2 guys. And the greatest thing about those 2 gentlemen is that they never just talked about their own players. They would go, hey, have you gone to see so-and-so at this school? Well, no. Here's the number for the coach. You need to go see this kid. And that's such a wonderful thing about both of those gentlemen, that they would do that. So for Paul Gola, a guy who was the first one out of Kern County to win a Division I state championship in 2013, like we alluded to earlier on, he 5 section championships at the Division I level, including his first year for the Drillers back in 2005.
I was calling those games.
That P.D. Mitchell season in 2008, Sonny Rufus in 2013.
I just look at Stan's walls and Cam Williams.
The 2016 team when they were when they had 3 quarterbacks really that year, and they were just so electric. And at that, and that comeback win at Central, his last D1 title in 2016. You talk about it, and then in 2019 he moves over to Garces, and now he's back in the district at Independence. His son is with him, just like he was at Garces.
And Coach Shilhobble's, give me a snapshot of what he's doing.
Tyler Shilhobble is living in northern New Mexico now. Him and his wife have adorable twins now, something that they it's personal to me and my wife because we had the same struggles that Tyler and his wife had having children. So to see them being able to raise these two beautiful children now, it made sense for them to go and be with family there and have, and really kind of figure out that part of their life for a little bit until he figures out a way to, he'll get back in the saddle.
And Stan, Tyler Schilhubble's story is cemented. His legacy's forever in Kern County.
Yeah, he was actually one. Yeah, it is, and he did a great job over there. And he was one of our first Peak Award winners.
Wow,
the first year I think it was, or it was somewhere around there. And then I was on the committee that hired Gola. I was an administrator at BHS. And fun fact, his first even-yeared championship was 16. It took him 9 years to win in an even-numbered year. I used to call him after he won in 5, 7 and
11.
He won in 9.
11.
Right, but he won in 9. I remember talking to him going, hey, why don't you do something different?
You're
why don't
right.
you win an even year? Yeah. And so finally when he got it in 16, I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
Alex, you see how your boss works? You see how he works?
She knows.
It's an even.
Grant Campbell takes over for Gola at Garces as a Garces alum, and then we talk about Clonch and Weddle.
Yeah, Nathan Clonch takes over the Ridgeview program
Wow.
this year. Longtime assistant, most recently at West High. I knew him a long time at Centennial as well. And then Chris Weddle, a Wasco guy through and through, but he's been at Foothill for a long time. Been a JV and Froschoff football coach, been a baseball coach there. Takes over first-time head. Both of those gentlemen, both first-time head coaches of the football program. So a lot of changes in town, but the right changes, the right guys in place, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see how each one of those programs kind of plays out, but I think it's going to be positive for everybody right
Stan, I'll give you the last 30 seconds on this sea change that's taking place in 2024. It makes for some awfully good content with our show, our magazine, and with our live stream.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, and like we said earlier, when somebody steps out, someone else has got to step in, and it's an opportunity for somebody. Just like when he leaves or you leave or I leave, it's an opportunity for someone else to cement their legacy.
You're kicking us out already.
Hey, that didn't last long. One segment. We got one quarter in and we're gone.
Nice seeing you.
Hey, Trevor, no, you can't go. Well, you could probably take a break because when we come back, we're going under the hood with Stan Greene in the second quarter of In the Huddle. We're going to go under the hood and go deep with the section discussion with CIF Central Section, the playoff divisions, the formats. Hope you're enjoying In the Huddle. Be right back.
Valley Strong's youth accounts teach kids how to save and earn interest on their hard-earned money.
Hey! You should be earning interest on your savings. Make the money work for you.
Because when we plant financial literacy young, it grows the rest of their lives.
Seconds.
Oh,
to a minute.
Oh, that was Spanky that did that.
Yeah, he
Oh,
texted
really?
me too.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm finding out from our director, Alex. I said, how long are our breaks? She said, it's over.
Now.
So here we go. Welcome back. This is In the Huddle, brought to you by the Kern High Network. Vance Palm, Trevor Horn, Stan Greene. Greg Kerr will be joining us throughout the year. Great first quarter, guys. Thank you. And we talked about the sea change of head coaching. Some momentous changes there, and we'll get to see the ramifications of all of that. Okay, second quarter, we're going to go under the hood with Stan Greene. I'm going to really kind of stay back on this and let you guys talk about it. But Stan, I can't count because I can't count on all my fingers. I only have 10 of them.
You still have 10?
How many times I've tried to get a hold of you in CIF meeting? Call you back. I'm in CIF meeting. Dude, I need to talk to you. In CIF meeting. In CIF meeting. In CIF meeting. Huge part of your job as Director of School Support Services, because I already hear my phone blowing up. We're going to do other sports here. We're doing volleyball. We'll have more things come.
Got a Mount Rushmore comment on Facebook too, just so you know.
Oh, am I on it?
No, they said Perucci should be on there, and I do not disagree.
Hey,
with that.
Here's the great thing about, and that comment is correct when you think about.
Here we go. Here we go.
Think about this for a second. Who are the three coaches there was two coaches last year that had 100+ wins in their career in Kern County coaching high school football? It was Brian Nixon and Paul Gola. Brian Nixon is now retired. So there's one.
Yep.
There could be two next Friday night around 9:30, 10 p.m.
Unless there's a weather delay.
And that's why I said 9. At some
Very true.
point, most likely or possibly next Friday, we could have another one. Gerald Perucci is sitting on 99. He thought he was going to get it 99, and then a snafu happens, and he didn't get it in the semifinals last year. So now he's sitting on 99, and he could be the second active Kern County coach to have 100 career wins as a head coach.
What I've taken away from all of this already is that we're getting comments and we're getting action on this, which I love. Gentlemen, please don't get me fired from Alex. Let's stay on track here.
I want to say one more thing.
Okay.
Perucci's one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
And every time it rains, I always text him and make sure he's okay.
He just needs to get more emotional and be more fired up. That one thing about Gerald, he just needs to get plugged in a little bit more and get more deeply into the game. Okay, come on. Okay. Under the Hood with Stan Greene, Central Section, CIF discussions, playoffs, formats. We threw this kind of at the wall in our production meeting when we talked about it, but there's a lot going on. We see the realignments. When I was going to high school here, there was 4 leagues max. Now there's a lot going on.
And you had the big school and the small school divisions. And
I'll watch the clock. You guys have some fun with this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so this is my 15th year in this job, and I've seen a lot of change since I got in it. And I remember back in the day, which 8, 9, 10 years ago, where if you were successful, you might get moved to Division I, and you may never get out. And even when you had down years, it was horrible for you. And
and the other issue with that as well is I take Ridgeview football.
Yeah.
They were great at D3. They won 2 titles at D3. They won 2 titles at D2. But that 3-year progression that it used to be for the realignment with what division you were in is basically what you were doing is you were getting promoted on what the previous programs are doing. And with the central section being so public school heavy, unlike the southern section, which is kind of the privates rule the roost down south, is you've got attrition at a public school. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
There's going to be
cycle.
Yeah, there's going to be a cycle of this 8th grade class wasn't as good as the one previously of them, and they're going to have down years. But what happens is, just like Stan was alluding to, is you get up to D1, and then you're just sitting there going, we're getting pounded up here because we just don't have the athletes that we had before. And so I 100% agree.
So like 8, 9 years ago, I remember like it was yesterday, even though I don't remember if it was 8 or 9 years ago, but we were in a CIF meeting and we were talking about rankings. And I made the comment of, why don't we just use rankings for our playoff divisions and just line them up? If you're the top 10, you're in this division. And 11 through 20, you're in Division 2. And I got laughed out of the room. And then right before COVID, right around COVID, we voted in that we were going to use rankings for playoffs. Well, one thing that we missed as a section, and I think it was right after COVID, because we didn't have in-person meetings to have this dialogue. And so that year, you'll remember the year, they lined it up from 1 to 128. Well, Ridgeview went all the way down to like D4 or 5.
Right.
Wow.
And they should have been, I'll explain it in a second.
Right.
They should have been higher for a variety of reasons, but they go and they pummel a bunch of people that, you think about a D5 school, like let's say you line them up and you think about a D5 school and you don't have our new model, which is base divisions. And you have a school like Shafter. I remember the year we had the conversation. Shafter and RFK were 8-0, 9-0, and they would have been in Division 2 for the playoffs. And I said that's unjust for them. You cannot do that. We cannot put them in D. They're having a stellar year, first time ever, and they could win a D4, D5, and you're going to stick them in D2. They'll be out in the first round. Well, that's what happened that year. Wasco gets in. I think they beat Centennial. They were in D2 because they got ranked so high. Then they went to Frontier and lost. And it was shortly after that finally got a bunch of common sense, because we all got in the room, because we weren't in the room talking, and we came up with a base division. Right. So you'd now be placed in a base division based on your previous years of experience. So, for example, let's say you were a base Division 2 school. If you were successful and we lined you up from 1 to 120, you could go as high as Division 1. If you were not as successful, you could go as low as Division 3. And that, I think, has really helped the playing field for a school not being what everybody likes to say, why are you penalizing my school?
Right.
That's been very helpful. Now, one thing that got voted in this last year that's going to be really helpful is, for many years since we started this process with divisions, I've argued there aren't more than 8 schools in D1 that can compete with each other. And the reality is sometimes there's only 4.
Right.
And so, I barked for a long time about it. because you take a school like Garces. So last year, Garces and Centennial, whoever wins that game, you get the 12 seed in D1.
This was the second to last week of the season.
Yeah.
And Garces beat Centennial at home 10-6. And what happened was everybody knew. It was untalked about, but everybody knew what was going to happen. Yeah. The winner of that game was going to go D1, and the loser of that game was probably, just because of the way the divisions were set out, they were probably going to be the 3 or 4 seed, and that's how it ended up for Centennial. And Centennial won 2 playoff games in D2, where Garces went to Sanger and lost 35-0.
Yeah, well, and what happens is base football, you only have about 12 schools that are D1. Well, and if you figure you got 12 schools that are D1 base, the bottom 7 or 6, 7, 8, whatever, they're going to go down to D2, and then the top D2 schools are going to get bumped up. So what the change was now is we'll line them up from 1 through 128, and the top 16 will be in D1, but 8 will be in D1, and 8 will be in D1 AA. So you take a school like Garces.
Got it. St. Joseph,
yeah.
Centennial, where everybody was kind of on that fringe, because when you look at it last year, I'll just kind of go into the minutia a little bit why this all came about, because last year it really did come down to there should only been 8 teams, because the new 3, you have to win 30% of your regular season games in football, which means you have to go at least 3-7 in the regular season. Yeah. The problem was, out of those 9 teams that are D1 base, 3 of them did not have 3 wins, and then 2 more that had the 3rd win elected not to go to the playoffs because they just, for whatever reason that the school decided to. Then you had one other school that was a D1 base that dropped down to D2. So you only, out of the 12 teams that played in the Division I football playoffs last year, were D1 base. The other 7 were D2 bases. And rightfully so, a team like Frontier needed to be in Division I because that team was loaded and they were 10-0 last year. Hanford needed to be in there. Sanger, not a D1 base, needed to be in the D1 playoffs. But the problem is that the 9, 10, 11, and 12 seeded teams were all D2 bases. And in those first round games for those 4s, the average margin of victory was 35-14 that evening.
And I think, though, sorry.
No, go for it.
I think that our section is so progressive on this and has done such a good job. Ryan Toss and Matt Cezzino have really listened to the problems that exist out there. And I think this year's playoff format, in particular for football, is going to be so much more equitable. The problems aren't going to be as big as they were. It's just so much better.
Division I is only going to have 3 games, a total of 3 games, because they're going to start in the quarterfinals, go semifinals. Yeah. But that D1A, is that going to be, how many teams is that going to be?
It's 8 and 8.
8 and 8.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. And then you're going to be able to fill up a D2. A D2 title is going to, it's going to be so much more competitive. That is 1 AA the highest or 1A the highest?
The way it's been worded in all the stuff is 1A and 1 AA.
Okay, because that was the whole question 7 years ago when we went to the 13th state championships.
Yeah, and one point that I want to make is we're not going to lose a state contender. So if you win either one of those divisions, you're going to get into a state game.
So are we adding a 7th?
I didn't look at the math that far into it.
Because if we're adding a 7th division, that means, are they going to add another game, or is the D6 going to be like an at-large and then one of them, because I know that they do that up north because they have a couple smaller sections up north with the northern and the central coast, and I think that their lowest division, they kind of go in at will, kind of like the way it was in 2012 when BHS got into the state playoffs. 2013 when BHS got in the state playoffs, but an undefeated Wasco didn't. So it may end up being that we may only have 6 qualifiers.
No. If you win the section, you're in a state game. I just don't know the math on it, because that was one of the questions I asked was, well, if we split it to divisions like this and you win, are you still going on? And they say everybody that wins.
And for those that don't understand, football is so much more unique than any other sport that plays in the state playoffs, because you have to win your section championship to get into the state playoffs. Everybody from the southern section would get in. Everybody from the Trinity League would get in.
Yeah.
Unlike basketball, where you can get an at-large bid, baseball, softball, you can get at-large bids. There's no at-large in football.
I think as we finish this, I want to make a comment about a question that here. Which camera are we on? That one? I love this question too. Does high school have a transfer portal like college?
There's
Whoa! Hold on. Can we save this? Can we save that? Can we save that topic for a future show?
No.
Because it's got a wide scope of discussion points, and
Sure.
B, this one's still pretty stacked. You guys let me know.
I've got 10 seconds and I'll answer this. Ryan Toss is such a incredible section commissioner for the central section because their office is so transparent.
Yep.
Because now you can go, any one of us can go onto the section's website and look under governance, transfer decisions, and see how each one is going. So there is we may not have a portal, but you can see who is eligible to play right away and who isn't, because there's so much transparency between Matt, Ryan, and Kelly Jones, who is their office manager.
And there's a million reasons a kid could go from one school to another.
Yeah.
And, we have parents call here all the time asking questions, upset. And the reality is, we have it at every level in our organization. Sometimes stuff happens and you don't get to know.
Yeah.
And sometimes kids get ruled eligible for whatever reason, and I don't get to know. And quite frankly, when Ryan says they're eligible because we don't have our own rules anymore. Mm-hmm. If he says they're good to go, they're good to go. And
really,
I'm
there's
good with
3
it.
parties that need to know. That's the school they're leaving, the school they're going to, and the section office.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of points to make. Now you see why this was a part of our first show, second quarter, because it covers a lot of very interesting points. And sometimes you might listen and go, well, that's a lot of information. Yeah. But come November, when mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and aunt and uncle and coaches and staff are really starting to get pretty emotional and vociferous about their complaints, we're going over it now because we feel that it's that important. The second point of...
And when we get into October, we're going to get into the minutia.
We'll come back to it.
We'll do some bracketology and different things like that.
Second point with the portal, that's a big topic. I'd love to do an entire couple of quarters on, and
I think that might be a couple shows.
We'll get some guests to come in here that you can pull some strings and get somebody like Mr. Toss down here. We can kind of get in the weeds of it. So second quarter, excellent work, fellas. Excellent. You earned all the special treats I have for you out there. Third quarter coming up right now. After this very short break, we are going to do. It's here. The 2024 season starts. Well, scrimmages already, but next Thursday night, live football action, volleyball action is already starting. Third quarter, we'll be right back with 2024.
How strong you can help it practice earning and spending in the real world.
So, my rate for dishes is going up with inflation.
Oh, is it?
Blame the economy.
Because when we plant financial literacy young, it grows the rest of their lives.
Oh, he'll come. He'd love it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Because these two never stop during the breaks, Alex, give me one of these. Because they don't stop. In the old days, I took a break. We just keep rolling. Okay. The 2024 season is here. The build-up, the excitement is here. We have some graphics we're going to show, and we're going to get into it. And we'll go through the leagues, and we'll look at last year's standings, and we'll try to pepper in a couple of give and takes here. We're right on schedule with the clock. We do have a fourth quarter. So, Trevor, let's start with the Desert League.
Yeah. High Desert League. Last year, Bishop won the league. Farthest traveling school there is. Beautiful country up there on the way to Mammoth. Kern Valley, the one Kern High School District program in the High Desert League last year, finished fourth. They went 3-8 overall, 2-3 in league. Scott Dedman in his second season as head coach. Hey, man, he put him out there. He was at BC during the passing league, and those boys, they were competing. He's got some talent up there, so it'll be fun to see what the Broncs do this year.
Stan, snapshot view of the High Desert League.
I'm actually really excited for them in the future because there's talk about them coming down, which is a whole nother show. Mm-hmm. But, it's a competitive league. It's a road league. I mean, you really got to be a champ to travel there.
South Sequoia League. Wow. Well, the aforementioned Coach Perucci. By the way, we're putting the graphics up so you can see all of the teams that are in there. We'll start getting into the prediction game next week, but today is just kind of a snapshot view of each of these leagues. Trevor?
Yep. Again, Shafter, league champs last year, undefeated in the regular season. Had a heartbreak there in the semifinals and the playoffs last year to end the season. They were league champs last year. They're a favorite once again in that league. They bring back their quarterback in Ezekiel Osborne, Marion Sloan out at wide receiver. They're stacked. They got their running back. They got 3 of their starting O-linemen back. And, hey, man, those guys play both ways. There's about 35 guys on that team, and they get at it. Perucci does a great job. And next Friday at Exeter, he's going for win number 100.
Stan, always a dangerous league. I mean, you look at Wasco in there, Kennedy. I mean, you just look at all of those teams in there. Always a dangerous league, the Sequoia.
That's a really competitive league.
It is.
And the sportsmanship and the competitiveness and the communities is so cool to watch.
The third place team in the league last year played for a state championship.
Yeah.
And
Great point.
Like I said before, I love Perucci, man. So
Who doesn't?
How about the Mountain League? Let's go to the Mountain League, Alex.
Mountain League, again, this is a league that Tehachapi, they won the league last year. I like to call it the directional league, but I know it is the Mountain League because you put mountain football in there, north, south, east, west in there. North under Richie Bolin last year finished second. They were 3-1 in league. Obviously, Adam Levinson, the head coach. South, Kerry Mills has been there since the dawn of time.
We called two South games last year, 2 of them, and they were both barn burners.
Yep. Very competitive league. We'll be able to see East next week in our game of the week. They'll be at Highlands, so that'll be a lot of fun. And then West is in there with Derek Dunham as head coach. The Vikings are always going to be competitive.
Stan, snapshot of the Mountain.
I just hope Tehachapi's not as good as they were because they were so good last year.
That was a very senior heavy.
Yeah, they were so good. I don't mean that in a bad way either. They were just so
now
good.
Your phone's going to start blowing up. Right? Now here it comes.
I'm excited.
You know what, Stan? They just literally put the lawnmower away for the rest of the season after you said that.
Right. They did, man. I bet they did. No, that's a good league, though. I'm anxious to see what Adam can do at North High. Yeah. And, you mentioned all the other schools, and it's going to be an interesting league.
Yep.
All right. The next thing, when I go to the next slide, Alex, of Valley, the first thing that pops out is kind of what we touched on in the second quarter of the show. You see the BHS drillers are not playing. They're not in the same league. It was a different thing for me to get as a play-by-play guy. They're in the Valley League now, but still. What a league. What a tough league, Trevor, the Valley League.
I'm going to say it right now. I think this is going to be the most competitive league in the Central section this year. When you look at BCHS, always brings it with Darren Carr as head coach. The drillers have so much coming back. There's so much speed. Sheehy, you always talk about year 3, year 4 is when you really kind of hit the ground running as a head coach, and that's where Sheehy is right now. Independence with Gola in there. It's going to be very interesting. And what I saw at a Highland last night against Liberty, it's a very competitive, very talented football team. And you add in Ridgeview with the new head coach, Nathan Klonch. I think the Valley is going to be extremely fun to watch in October.
Great commentary, Stan.
No, I agree. I'm anxious for Nathan Klonch at Ridgeview. I think he's ready to take it on. But like you said, Highland with Mike Gutierrez and Gola and Rashawn Sheehy, who's doing a fantastic job at Bakersfield High School. There's going to be some good games in there.
I mean, you talk about the drillers and Bryson Abbott. Here's a little nugget for you. He had 2,153 yards rushing last year, 23 touchdowns. Could be the first Kern County running back to rush for 2,000-plus yards in consecutive seasons in 10 years. Who was that last one, gentlemen? Sheldon Croney.
Sheldon Croney.
That too. I should have known that answer.
Yep.
Well, I didn't answer because I wanted him to answer. Horizon League, Alex. Horizon League. I called a couple of Golden Valley games last year. Golden Valley, you talk about getting set up. They have a little lamp for us up on top of the thing. It was like a reading lamp from your living room up on top. Van Horn and I felt like we were in our own living room calling the game. Always good to go out there. God's country. Arvin is in there. All right, Horizon League, Trevor.
A lot of fun again this year. Golden Valley, they bring back a lot of pieces. It's a very good team that went 9-3, went undefeated in league. Arvin, and you got a new head coach in Foothill. I talked to Christian Johnson over at Miramonte. He says he's really excited. He's got a lot of juniors and sophomores on the program. They all played last year. He's really excited to see what they can do. And then Del Oro, this is the first year with seniors this year, so it'll be interesting to see what the Suns can do on the football field this year.
Stan?
I'd love to see Del Oro have some success this year. And I think James Kane's done a great job at Golden Valley, so he's going to be tough. And, we know Arvin's going to be tough, right? Arvin
Always. And that brings us to the River League. Wow. Stories abound in this River League, and it's going to be one of these deals that wherever we decide that our game of the week is going to be, if it involves any of these teams from any league that we talked about, it's going to be great. But if we get a River League game, it can prick the ears. People can start looking up and going, wow. So jump in there, Trevor.
I think right now it might be a 2-team race, but the way that Centennial's looking so far in fall camp, it might be a 3-team race right now. I mean, Stockdale's in there. Mackey's in his 3rd year now as the head coach. Is that correct? 3rd year or 2nd year?
Second year for
Yep.
Stockdale.
And so Frontier brought a lot of pieces back, but much like Liberty, they've got a new first-year starting quarterback. Both Frontier and Liberty do. Garza's a first-year. Actually, the entire league has a first-year quarterback this year.
The entire River League.
The entire River League has a first-year quarterback this year. But I think it's all going to be predicated for each one of these programs, how your O-line looks and how your run game is, because I think everybody's defense is going to come to play, and I think it's who controls the ball the most is going to be the one that's going to come out on top on Thursday and Friday nights this year.
Stan, I got asked to play on I know you never believe this. You never believe it. I got asked to play in a golf scramble this year. And I know it was a weird deal. I got asked to play, and I played in a tournament that I saw you at. There was some high-level dudes at this thing, Trevor. It was the Centennial.
High-level dudes and
the Centennial Golf Tournament. It was an absolute blast. And every time I see Coach Sterrett, I just think, all right, they're going 10-0. They're winning the whole thing. They're winning the whole. Just being around him, the River League is going to be something to be held this year.
Yeah, and for me, it's really hard to pick one of them. I mean, I love Sterrett, and it was a great golf tournament. I won a bunch of stuff in the auction, not on the golf course.
Wow.
I love Richie Bolin at Liberty High School, but I feel like this is a Lee Corso moment. I should put my Frontier hat on. I'm on the Chris Bandy train, man. I want Chris to get there.
It would be great for him to be able to do that. Just because, I mean, last year was really tough. First year in Division I, you had to go up to Central, which is always hard. Kyle
had
Biggs
the epic win over Liberty.
They really did.
Big win.
That's the first league loss for Liberty since 2016. I mean, that was a huge win for them last year. And now, like Bandy told me a couple of weeks ago, they're no longer the hunter; they're the huntee.
Absolutely.
And so he goes, but we're ready for it. We're hungry for that situation, that target on their back that was always on Liberty's back. So it'll be very, very interesting.
So that's kind of a sneak peek of how things are going to go as we go into this season of In the Huddle with regards to going over each league, each schedule, who's coming up. We'll have our traditional picks, and we'll go through that, but that's a real kind of a good roadmap to follow as we go through each of our leagues. We are done with the third quarter, but you guys are good. You guys are good as far as time-wise. You guys – I thought you meant – sorry. I thought you were –
hey, I got you, bud.
Is that right? High as it goes. When we come back, the fourth quarter, call to action. We're going to go over what's happening tonight, tomorrow night, and next week. Back right after this.
Valley Strong's youth accounts help kids practice earning and spending in the real world.
So, my rate for dishes is going up with inflation.
Oh, is it?
Blame the economy.
Because when we plant financial literacy young, it grows the rest of their lives.
Welcome back to In the Huddle, because if you're on the team, you want to be in the huddle. Let's take hours and hours and hours spent on that on the way over here. Fourth quarter, the segment, Trevor Horn, Stan Greene, I'm Vance Palm. Fourth quarter, the first thing we're going to start off each fourth quarter with, every show is a call to action. Today's call to action, fellas, is a serious one because, again, this is like the third year in a row now, and we do it on our games all the time. We push and we talk and we try to promote and we try to recruit more officials to the Kern County Officials Organization, and we get them, and it's great. And I've watched the cycle of us really pushing to get more officials, and then I've seen them sign up. I've seen them matriculate up through the system, and then I see him at varsity games, so it can happen. I'll start with Trevor first. The importance of officials for the youth. Let's do it from a student athlete and a parent standpoint. The importance of officials.
How do you know if you're doing the right thing if you don't have somebody there telling you that what is right or wrong? Whether it's a teacher or an official, you need that adult in the room to be able to kind of, hold the room and make sure that everything's being done properly. And that's what a high school official will do.
Stan Greene, the importance of having enough officials from a logistics standpoint and making sure we can have events.
Yeah, well, I mean, for us, logistically, it just throws a monkey wrench into everything we do because we have 19 high schools. And so we're moving games around, or ADs are having to move games to Thursday. And it's not as simple as one would think because you have senior nights, you have homecomings, you have certain rivalries that you want to keep on Fridays. But, our official association has done a great job. They're hardworking guys. Many of them have primary occupations, and this is a second job for them just because they're trying to give back. I don't understand the shortage, though, because at the games I'm at, there's a lot of people that are experts.
There's a lot of officials in the stands.
Yeah.
That's our point, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah.
Hey, some of you have always thought you wanted to be. I remember I used to official. I've been playing basketball at Cal State, and on some of the weekends, we go out to Arvin High School and do these massive tournaments, basketball tournaments from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I can assure you it's no walk in the park. But let me give it to you. KCOA Sports Officials at gmail.com. Alex, are you pulling that up for us? KCOA Sports Officials at gmail.com. Some of you sit there and go, I could never do that. Or you think, man, I'd like to do that. We want both of you. So please, it's very important. That's our call to action. Get involved, be a sports official, help out. And if you've got some free time, if you're retired, or if something you feel you want to give back to the community, we'll appreciate it. Okay, tonight, tomorrow night, we're here already. Let's talk scrimmages first with football.
So last night kicked off. Highland hosted Liberty. Great action. You saw the Frost off go at it. Split the field last night at 6 o'clock. The varsity came out right around 7 o'clock. It was great to see both of those programs out there tonight. We've got plenty of games. Big one, Frontier at BHS at Griffith Field tonight. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah, that game.
Scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about
Yeah, we're talking
a lot of
scrimmage,
fun,
but
yeah.
still, I bet you there's some people there.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
There's a lot of very interested fans. Another scrimmage tonight, Independence at East. First look at Paul Gola there, and then it'll be our ability to see what East High has this year before we host. We have that game next week at Highland in the season opener. Also, Golden Valley is over at Shafter. Wasco is at South, and then Centennial is over at BCHS tonight. Tomorrow, there's also scrimmages. Arvin at Sierra Pacific in Hanford. Delora is at West. Here's a fun one for you guys. Kern Valley and Foothill at North in a three-way scrimmage tomorrow night at North High. That'll be a lot of fun. 3 Kern High School District schools in that one. 2 new head coaches showing off their team for the first time in Foothill and North. Tehachapi is going to Ridgeview, and then the final one, Stockdale's going out of town to go to Porterville. So those are all the Kern High School District programs that are scrimmaging this week before the real games start.
Okay, we want to throw this in very quickly. Yes, we hear you, volleyballers. I'm a volleyball dad. We hear you, and you're going to be a big part of this show, as a lot of our sports are going to be. Frontier, this is tonight, and this is no scrimmage.
These are the real
deal.
This is season opening tonight.
Frontier at BHS, Independence at East, Golden Valley at Shafter, Wasco at North, Centennial at BCHS. You're talking about some big-time programs tonight live in volleyball.
And if you're looking for a doubleheader, that Arroyo Grande at Liberty match tonight at Liberty is at 4:30. So if you want to go out and see that one before you head out to another one, because a majority of them will start at either 6:15 or 6:30, but then the Centennial at BCHS match tonight is supposed to start about 7 o'clock. So, I mean, you could really see 3 different matches if you planned your night accordingly as a volleyball fan.
It's that time of the year. I mean, just starting school yesterday morning, traffic was just in one day, traffic changed. Okay, Stan, closing comment from you in the fourth quarter. Next week, we'll have our first Kern High Network game of the week. I touched on it earlier in the show. In 2015, 9 years ago, we started this Kern High Network live streaming deal, and it's just flourished into an incredible part of the platform that you have here in the Kern High School District. Here we go again. We're kicking off the season. Highland at East, Stan.
I think, is it East at Highland or Highland at East?
At Highland.
I think it's East at Highland next week. East at Highland?
East is at Highland next
after that
week.
after that big preview, I messed it up.
Yeah,
So
no,
it's
you didn't.
East,
That was
East
a typo on my part.
East at Highland. Okay, so we're up at Scotland Yard.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great rivalry, right? Neighborhood rivalry.
Always.
Probably have transfer portal kids back and forth.
Last time we saw those two go at it was 2021 in the old SEYL. So this is This is a fantastic game to kick off the 2024 season. And can I say one thing really quickly? Sorry, Richie Boland. He was an O-lineman, not a long snapper in college at New Mexico
Did you
State.
call him a long snapper? knew he
I
was an
did.
O-lineman.
He's probably going to beat me up.
I love Richie. Love me
I do
some
too.
linemen.
Sorry, bud.
Our director Alex is giving me that look, so let's stay on the clock here, big dogs. How about this? I want to also bring Stan in to talk about this because we are going to always push for 2 shows a week.
Yep.
You had talked about possibly more, but it's important that our audience knows we're going to also have a Monday 1 p.m. show, Mondays at 1 p.m., and that'll get us going for the week that's about to come in, and we're going to have the head coaches of our game of the week. So next Friday's game of the week, East at Scotland Yard up at Highland, and Mike Gutierrez and BB Carrasco will be here.
Yeah, I'm excited I love both those guys. Great guys. You know, Mike's a good guy, and he's had a great career so far at Highland, and BB's starting things off at East High. I think this is his 3rd year.
3rd year, and I'll tell you this right now. He's excited about wins and losses, but what BB is most excited about right now is his team's GPA.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's a great thing.
I can't comment on Mike because I don't know Mike this way. BB's just a good human being. And, you know, he was at Centennial when my son was there, and he was just so good to my kid, and he didn't have to be. And, you know, that says a lot about somebody when they're just a good person.
I know Mike Gutierrez at that level, and he is a great human being.
Too, yeah.
Hey, it's fantastic.
So that's 1 o'clock this coming Monday right here. Catch us that. Now, how to follow the Kern High Network. Alex, thank you for all this. It's at Kern High Network on X, Kern High Network, Facebook, Instagram. You can find us. Everybody's hip enough to all of that to be able to find us. On this note, we do want to thank our director, Alex Torres. What a wonderful job. And I got to start to meet, I met our director when we started doing when she started to become part of the team for the All-Star games. And
when she was in the huddle?
Well, she is the huddle. So we're very fortunate to have her. So have a great weekend. There's a lot going on. You know all about the scrimmages tonight. You know all about the real volleyball matches tonight. And then we go full force, 1 o'clock on Monday right here with BB and Mike. And sooner or later, we're going to get the Dean of Local Sports, Greg, to join us in here as well. And then, again, next Thursday, we'll be in the huddle right here. And then, we're full force by next week.